let's move to our conference. The Big Ten's top 25 players list from Inside the Hall and Hoops continues. This has been a fun discourse this week. I would say I appreciate the undertaking these guys have taken on with this project. And as the list continues, I think it gets more interesting because it's a big mess between 16 and 25, 16 and 50. Like you could really name 25 guys that weren't on the list and kind of be like, well, this is gross this year. You knew who the top 15 were going to be for the most part, except for one name that's not here that we're going to do a whole segment on after this segment today because we're so fired up about it. But now that we have 15 through 6, the next 2 drops have been revealed and we can assume we know who the top 5 are. Let's do a quick check-in on how we feel about this list. So I'm going to read you 15 through 11, followed by 10 through 6. That is the latest drop that has come out from Inside the Hall and Hoops' Big Ten top 25 players. Number 15.
I've already seen these, right?
Yes, but I'm going to read them for those that are watching this video that haven't seen.
I'm saying because I am a subscriber.
Oh, all right. 15, AJ Storr, Wisconsin. 14, Dawson Garcia, Minnesota. 13, Peyton Sanford, Iowa. 12, Kisei Tominaga, Nebraska. 11, Ace Baldwin, Penn State. Into the top 10. Number 10, Zed Key, Ohio State. Number 9, AJ Hoggard. Number 8, Olivier Kamwa. Number 7, Coleman Hawkins. And number 6, Cliff Amorier, Rutgers. Over to you, Cart. What do you make of 15 through 6?
Well, 15 through 11, I think I'd rather take the group that's 16 through 25 over the players they named in that group. To be honest with you, like AJ Storr is above guys like Bruce Thornton. I mean, I'm a AJ Storr guy, but
AJ Storr above Esigian?
I probably would put. I think I'm pretty high on AJ Storr, but I'm also falling for the classic like end of the year run. You know, Indiana fans can relate to that. They're still running off the Xavier Johnson Big Ten tournament hope 2 years ago, but yeah, I just can't see AJ Storr being above even guys like Jay Nakins. Like Jay Nakins is better than AJ Storr. I hate to go back to Michigan State guys on this list. But there's also some players I think are a little bit too. It was Cliff at 6.
Cliff was at 6, yeah.
Cliff at 6.
I believe Cliff was in their top 5 a year ago, and then he kind of underwhelmed, and now he's at 6 this year.
I guess they're expecting a really big, jump out of Cliff. I wish I would have been able to read like the act because I know you get to see everything as far as their thought process and kind of like a little blurb on where they're coming from and what they're factoring in. I don't know if they truly are applying that to all players though, if like defense is a part of things. Cause you can put Kisei at what, 11 is what they have him at? 12?
He's at 12.
Kisei can't check you with all due respect. He's a bad defender. Really, really bad, both physically and actually defending. Oh, I might just be not being able to process it in my head, but I don't know if I want to be a fan of a conference where Peyton Sanford's the 12th best player.
I just think everybody's flipping the wrong Iowa player here. I have no issue if Sanford's 23rd, but like if you're going Iowa's first option deserves to be 13th, it's Tony Perkins and not Peyton Sanford.
Or McCaffrey.
Yeah, if McCaffrey was a lock to be healthy, I think I'd agree with that too.
Wait, so Pat McCaffrey's not on this list, is he?
He was in the honorable mentions.
Oh, he was? Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I like Sanford's a fine player. Like, I don't want to disrespect him too much because he's nice. I wish my team had him. I wish your team had him. Like, he's good. But I don't think Sanford's ever going to be like the first option at Iowa. And Iowa's really good with making first options all Big Ten guys, sometimes all American guys, sometimes National Player of the Year guys. They've been great at doing that long before Luka Garza even got to Iowa City. And I don't think that's Sanford. Like, I don't think he's going to be that guy because you have to run him like Rip Hamilton stuff to get him a shot. And as good as Fran is at running stuff for his guys, I don't think that's how he wants to do it. I think he's a complimentary guy. I think he's a secondary guy to Tony Perkins, who you just give the ball to, and he makes stuff happen. Like, and I know people like to make fun of Tony Perkins, but as a second option last year, like he was scoring 12 and 5 and 5. Like that's as a second option. Make him the first option. What does that look like? It probably is a pretty significant leap in a way I don't think Sanford would take one. So, but I don't know, man. Do you think Hawkins over Kamwa is correct?
Yes, but you know how I feel about I'm Hawkins bandwagon stan. I think Hawkins is gonna have a big year.
This is a pro Coleman Hawkins show. I think that's the one a lot of people are gonna have problems with. And Coleman is closer to the NBA than Kamwa is on paper. But I think Kamwa has been a better college basketball player, at least last season, than Coleman was. And maybe there's time for that to change, but talent's never been the issue for Coleman. It's just turning that talent into productivity. It's interesting because like Zed Key is the 10th best player in this conference, man. Is Zed Key even starting for Ohio State? Are we positive?
That's another thing. If we do the same exercise we do with Iowa, if we're picking Ohio State players to be on this list, I would put Bruce Thornton ahead of Zed Key. I put Felix Akpara ahead of Zed Key. I put Scotty Middleton ahead of Zed Key.
So Akpara was not in the honorable mentions even, which I think is a total miss from them. Middleton was in the honorable mentions. Thornton and Battle were both in the 1920 range, I think 1920. So, yeah, I just think this is a miss eval on the part of Hoops and Inside the Hall, and those guys do great work. I've praised them a ton this week, but I don't think Zed Key is going to start at Ohio State. I think Akpara is. We saw it up close and personal last year multiple times. we drove our asses around this whole state, and one of my biggest takeaways at the end of the year was, man, Akpara is coming along. He looked like a totally different guy at the end of the conference season than he did when we saw him earlier in the conference season. And look, Zed Key would be great if you could turn injuries off. You just can't. And I'm not wishing injury on anyone. I'm not at all. He supposedly is healthy. He got cleared to play the start of this season. That's great. He played 2 months of last season banged up. He was trying to power through. It hurt Ohio State that they were trying to play him through injury. And he has so many miles on him as a player right now. It's just hard for me to see him coming back to the fully healthy guy that he is. And it was hard last year when they wanted him to be like the face of that team in the front court. This year, I think they want Akpara to have a bigger role. So if you're choosing between this blossoming sophomore that shows a lot of promise and has the higher ceiling versus I don't know how old Zed Key is at this point. Is he a fifth year guy coming off of major injuries? Like, are you really going to even consider the banged up guy if he gets banged up? Like the moment he gets banged up, I think it's just, we're going to Akpara in a way it wasn't last year. So I know Dylan's counter argument, we spent a lot of time arguing in the Hoops forums yesterday, but like the counter argument, shut up. The counter argument was Zed Key is basically a 14-8 guy. He's never averaged 10 points a game in a season in his entire career. And we're writing him up as he's basically a 14-8 guy because for 5 weeks, that's what he averaged before, again, his injuries blew his season away. Like the guy can't stay healthy. And even when he has stayed healthy, he's never averaged 10 points a game. He's not a 14-8 guy. He's not a top 10 player in this conference. He's not even a top 25 player in this conference. And wow, he's not Ohio State's center. Like I'll take any bets you want. He's not starting for this team the first conference game of this season. So, and it's rare. Like they've been doing this list for years, man. It's rare that there's one I think they missed that hard on. And like if you throw him in at 25, I'm not complaining super loud about it. But at 10 with the name they left off this list, absurd to me.
Yeah. And, I know I'm contradicting myself, which, for those who have Carter contradicting himself on their bingo card when they listen to Sleepers episodes, go ahead and fill that in. It's damn near a free space at this point. I personally, and state this, you've already stated it, we're a Coleman podcast. I would have Nkamwa above Coleman, and I would probably have him above Cliff as well. I would. I
So
would. I think there's just a little bit too much the idea of what Cliff can do. And at this point, when is the idea going to become what it actually is?
yeah, I'm good with that. I don't think there's like an offensive leap for Cliff ever that some thought. Maybe he can like get it back to the basket game. Like, get rid of that.
I don't think it's there.
Yeah, I
I
don't
don't
either.
think it's there. And also because I don't think it's there, his ceiling is going to depend on if because he could be the classic guy who wants to show people what wants to show NBA people that he can have a back to the basket move or he can shoot it and it just completely backfires when all he needs to do is be a rim protector, a rim runner, and dunk everything that is around the rim. And you'll be great. You'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah. Hogarth ninth. It's my last thing I want to ask you on. Are you happy with that spot?
I'm okay with that spot.
Where would you have him? I think ninth is right about where I'd have him. Maybe
I
like
I
I'd put him
somewhere between 7 and 9.
Okay.
Somewhere between. Wait, hold on a second. So, I'm trying to think. So, top five, obviously. I mean, it hasn't released yet. We can get it'll be Edie in no order. Edie, Tyson Walker, Terrence Shannon Jr., Jameer Young, Boo Booey.
Yep. Which is the right top five. I'm happy with them. I thought they would mess up the top five because Dylan is not a Jameer Young guy. So I thought they were gonna like flip Kamwa or somebody stupid over one of those guards. So I'm happy they landed on the top five. It should be a no-brainer consensus top five. I really struggle to think there's any way anybody outside of that top five breaks in.
See, Cliff needs to be moved back.
I
I would have AJ above Cliff.
I think outside of five, I forget who my actual list. I think I had Coleman and AJ at 6 and 7, and I don't remember who was who.
I think I like that.
I think those are the two guys close. Like if you were gonna say who's the one person outside of the top five that cracks the top five, who would you bet on? Got to be one of those two, right? Coleman or AJ,
Yeah, or in Kamala.
or I guess Kamala. I think it's I would bet on Coleman out of that group, followed by
Yeah,
AJ,
I'd
followed by
probably go
Kamala.
AJ.